The Irrawaddy Delta is a magnificent natural landscape. Countless arteries of the river meander through the fertile wetlands, their shores covered in dense mangrove forest. The heat, water, and a constant supply of nutrients support a fascinating range of flora and fauna. The delta has become the rice bowl of Myanmar. But there's a cost. For decades, the mangroves have been subject to deforestation. Rangers and scientists are now striving to save them. Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, shares its borders with India, Bangladesh, China, Laos, and Thailand. A peninsula in the southwest part of the country is home to one of its most fertile regions, the Irrawaddy Delta. Loosely translated, Irrawaddy means the river that gives people life. It's fed by several rivers originating in the country's interior, as well as in Thailand and Vietnam. Captain Uchoyi heads downstream on one of the winding channels. Even for an experienced helmsman like him, the journey demands full concentration. It's a shallow river, and during low tide, the water level sinks to just 1.5 meters. The effect of the tides can still be felt 50 kilometers from the sea.
As soon as I set off, I have to keep my ears and eyes open and watch where I'm going. It's fine during high tide, but when the water's low, I have to be really careful. It can get really dangerous otherwise.
Submerged tree roots are another danger for Captain Uchoyi, as are other boats using the waterways. The river is the lifeblood of the people who live in the delta. It provides water for washing, for irrigating their crops, and it serves as a transport system. For instance, for coconuts. They come from the surrounding plantations and are first peeled to produce charcoal, an essential fuel source. In Myanmar, people who live in rural areas cook only over open fires. Captain Uchoyi has a cargo of bamboo. He stops by a wholesaler to load some more. People in the eastern region of the delta live from bamboo farming and trading. The thick, strong poles are sold to make scaffolding and are also used as walls and stilts for huts built near the banks of the river. There are now around 3,000 bamboo poles loaded onto the boat. The journey to the port of Bogale, deep within the delta, will take about 5 hours. Captain Uchoyi steers the boat through a labyrinth of backwaters, passing villages and mangrove forests. Eventually, he arrives at the main river, the Irrawaddy. Any minute now, he'll have to go at full throttle, so one of his crew members checks over the boat's aging diesel engine.
My parents were traders on these waterways, so of course I learned to be a boatman from an early age. I'm 48 now, and I've been doing this for 30 years. I like the job because I enjoy trading and bargaining. Buying bamboo cheap in one place and selling it somewhere else for more money. It's a good way to earn money. The river has hardly changed over the years, but there's more traffic than there used to be. You see more traders and more boats these days.
Around 5,000 vessels traverse the Irrawaddy every day. Alongside bamboo and other construction materials, the boats transport practically anything they can carry: people, animals, and foodstuffs. A third of Myanmar's total rice production comes from the Delta Plains. The sediments carried by the river make the soil in the wetlands especially fertile. Humid heat and plenty of rain allow for 2 harvests per year. However, the delta is often hit by cyclones that bring torrential rain and floods. The rice farmers have recently begun adopting more resistant strains that can better withstand the flooding.
I have a crew of 3 on my boat. Their main job is to load and unload the bamboo. They also help cook the meals we eat on board. And if anything needs repairing on the boat, I help them out.
Captain Uchayi and his crew members are approaching the port of Bugali, the largest and most important city in the Irrawaddy Delta. Bugali is home to about 100,000 people and is the economic center for the majority of the Delta's 6 million residents. It's an important trade and transport hub between the north and the south. Ethnic groups from all over Myanmar can be found here. The main religion is Theravada, the oldest surviving branch of Buddhism. Almost 90% of Burmese practice this faith. Bugali is center of trade in the middle of the delta. Goods are transported in every direction from here. Imports from abroad are unloaded here, as are domestic products from the capital, Rangoon. Staple foods such as rice are available everywhere, but fresh vegetables are less common. It's a niche market for the Line family. For U Tin Line, his wife and his daughter, the boat is home. They've lived here with 5 guinea pigs since 2008. They regularly sail downriver from Bugali, visiting villages to sell their vegetables. U Tin Line does a good trade in other commodities too.
I buy used pots, CD players, fans and cables, or I exchange them for fresh vegetables. I do good business trading in vegetables. It provides us with a decent living. It's a lot harder in other trades. I'm able to support my family without any problems by buying and selling vegetables.
Sometimes a sale happens spontaneously in the middle of the Irrawaddy. The customer wants to buy root vegetables and pickled mangoes, a delicacy in Myanmar. But it's more than just a job for U Tin Line. Traveling the river is a new adventure every day, and he enjoys passing on the latest news from the Delta. they've only been trading vegetables for a few years.
I used to be a farmer, but I had to give it up because things were going so badly. I gave my land to members of my family. Then I started trading in vegetables. It was an immediate success, so it became my new job.
From Bugale, we travel southwards downriver. As the sea gets closer and closer, the river water becomes more saline. The Line family lived in a village close to Bugale until May 2008. But then Cyclone Nargis struck, one of the most violent storms in recent decades, bringing devastation to the Irrawaddy Delta. The family lost everything they owned, and it was a miracle that they survived.
When Cyclone Nargis hit here, we were lucky enough to be somewhere else. We were spared, and so was my daughter, who was in school at the time. But when we got home, everything was destroyed. We didn't want to build a new home, so we decided to live on the boat. Unfortunately, our daughter can't attend school anymore because our life is on the river now.
The cyclone swept across the delta with wind speeds of up to 240 kilometers per hour. At least 130,000 people lost their lives in the destruction, and an estimated 2.5 million were made homeless. Entire towns and villages were wiped off the map. Their faith gives them strength, and every day they pray before a miniature shrine to the Buddha. They also pray to a spirit who is the patron saint of the waterways.
We also exchange things like tomatoes, chilies and sorrel for used electronic devices and cables.
The family visits the remote village every 2 weeks. There are no shops here, so there's a big demand for their fresh vegetables.
I don't need much for my daily life. Luxury isn't important to me. But I would like to help pay for my nephews and other poor children in my village to get baptized. I also want to donate to the monastery where my sister-in-law is a nun.
Although they live as traveling traders, they hope to find a good husband for their daughter in one of the villages in the region. The colors in the delta change throughout the year. Rich greens dominate during the monsoon, while during the dry season, the landscape takes on shades of pale beige to deep red. On a long, narrow island just 20 kilometers from the sea is a nature reserve. This protected area was established in 1986 to preserve the largest continuous mangrove forest in the delta. The dense vegetation and underwater root system protect the shoreline and mainland from flooding and erosion. The mangroves form an important barrier against the storms that sweep in from the sea. When they are destroyed, cyclones like Nargis can rip through the land unobstructed. It's not only the mangroves that are currently endangered. Many native animal species are at risk too. This colony of around 150 is the only large population of saltwater crocodiles in Myanmar, and they can pose a serious danger to people. 12 park rangers guard the nature reserve. Every day they patrol the many channels and tributaries of the Irrawaddy. Forest Ranger La So Win and his colleagues try to prevent illegal logging in the mangrove forests. They also warn the locals living along the river about the crocodiles, which often attack people.
What are you doing? Setting out the nets. Ever seen a crocodile here?
No, I've never seen one.
It's the mating season for the crocodiles, and that means they might be anywhere. Watch out for yourself. Don't take any pets onto your boat, neither dogs nor cats. If you see a crocodile, don't go into the water. Don't attack them with sticks or stones. If you do, they'll remember and attack you straight away next time. This is their territory. You're an intruder to them, so you have to be careful.
We don't even dare to take a break on the shore.
Okay, let's move on. Go home as soon as you're finished. A lot of people believe that crocodiles actively seek out human prey. But that's not true. They only enter the villages when they can't find anything to eat. They're especially dangerous during the mating season.
As a forest ranger, La So Win's main responsibility is to protect the mangrove forest. He carries out regular inspections of the mangroves in the area. Thieves illegally cut down trees here. He knows most of them and the places they usually go. They are often the very poorest people in the community who have no other means to earn money.
Inspection rounds like this are an important part of my work. Some people come across the river to cut down trees, and it's my job to document which trees they cut down. That's my main task. The first time I catch them, I give them a warning, and I explain to them that it's illegal. If they're just collecting firewood for their own use, I turn a blind eye. The main problem is the thieves who come every day and sell wood as a business. That's illegal, and the maximum penalty is 5 years in prison and a fine of $30 US.
Ko La Mo is one of the wood thieves. He has no education, and illegal logging is one of the very few ways he is able to support his family. His wife, Ma Vai, helps him with unloading and selling the wood. It's from a mangrove species that burns especially well. They dream of being able to save enough money to open a general store in their village one day.
It used to be a lot easier to collect wood. But then a lot of people got caught by the rangers and were sent to prison. I earn about €3 a day. It's my only source of income. I only dare come into the forest to collect wood at night. Then I go straight back home.
The presence of the rangers is having an effect, and it's getting harder for Ko La Mo to remain undetected. He earns less and less and can barely save any of his money. His dream of opening a shop seems further away than ever. Mavai rubs traditionally made sun cream onto the faces of her 2 children. The cream is called Tanaka and is made from the bark of a tree that only grows in the drier regions of Myanmar beyond the delta. It's mixed with fragrant sandalwood sawdust to make a paste. In 2008, she suffered the worst tragedy in her life. 4 of her children were killed during Cyclone Nargis.
My husband and my son were out at the time. I was alone with our 3 other children at home. I never thought it would be so terrible, but I brought the canoe into the house just in case. The storm just got stronger and stronger, and I thought our house was going to collapse. The water was up to my 11-year-old daughter's neck. She was barely able to stand. But the current was so strong that we were all swept away along with the canoe.
The entire village was devastated. Huts were flattened and washed away. Around half of the villagers lost their lives in Cyclone Nargis. Most of the bodies were never found.
My daughter tried to cling onto a tree, but the current was too strong. She was swept away to her death with my other 2 children. Afterwards, I lost all my strength and my will to live. I just sat there and vegetated. Now we have 3 more children. We have to take care of them and make sure they have a good future.
The people of the Delta rely on their children to help out with daily work. And when they're grown up, they care for their parents. Once again, Ko La Mo crosses the river at night to cut firewood in the mangrove forests of the nature reserve. The destruction of the mangroves is threatening the mud skipper, a type of amphibious fish. They find protection in the root system of the mangrove forest. Their muscular pectoral fins allow them to hold themselves out of the water and onto land. They share their habitat with various species of crab. Zhao Lun is a marine biologist from the Fauna and Flora Conservation Organization. She is accompanying Forest Ranger Lao Zo Win on his patrol. She supports the rangers in their work.
The fruit from the Lepa mangroves is a favorite food of the fish here. They have red blossoms. We've already seen a few during our patrol. It's a very rare species of mangrove. Here in the Delta, there are only about 200 of them left. We have a lot of work ahead of us to raise awareness. They should have been given protected status years ago.
In the past, particularly during the military dictatorship, mangroves were cut down to make way for rice fields. Nobody seemed to be aware of their protective function against storms and cyclones. 2/3 of the ancient mangrove forests have been destroyed in the past 4 decades. Today, mangroves cover just 8% of the Irrawaddy Delta.
These trees are also a vital source of food for several marine species. For example, fish and crustaceans feed on them. It's very simple. The fish grow big and fat, which is good for the fishermen, and that in turn benefits the villagers and the villages themselves. People here need to understand that.
They hope practical projects will help the locals understand these interrelationships. Together with villagers from Guingchangji, they have set up a nursery for mangrove trees. They give the village elder Chochonang advice on how to improve her young tree nursery. They have already planted the first small trees on the southern side of the village.
We can use the big trees for firewood, and they also protect us from cyclones. These trees are my passion. I'd like to be an example for future generations to remind us how important mangroves are.
Many of the survivors of Cyclone Nargis have now moved away. They are afraid of being caught defenseless if another disaster strikes. For those who have chosen to remain, Cha Chonying aims to build a protective wall of mangroves to ensure a safer future. The marine biologist Zhao Lun is helping her realize her goal.
This looks very dry. The plant needs more water. Then it'll grow faster in the strong sunlight here. And these plants need more water too. They need more space for the roots as well. You have to be very careful about the roots.
The lives of the fishermen along the Irrawaddy have barely changed for decades. They mostly use funnel-shaped nets that they attach in the direction of the incoming tide, and then hope for a good catch. One of them is the fisherman U Tingwei. They always remove the motor. It's too valuable to be left on board because it can easily be stolen. The Irrawaddy Delta was once a rich fishing ground. U Tingwei used to support his family of 6 by selling his catch. But since last year, the situation has become very bad for the fishermen. Their incomes have dropped by up to 80%. Now, he has to travel farther and farther to catch anything at all. He's the chairman of the local Fishermen's Association and is deeply troubled by the vanishing fish stocks.
I usually leave the nets out from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. Low tide is in the morning and high tide in the afternoon. But I hardly find anything in my nets. It used to be different. I'd catch plenty of fish every day. These days my catch is usually just a handful of fish.
Up to now, the suspicions of U Tingwei and his fellow fishermen have not been verified. Scientists have not found evidence of pesticides in water samples. They suspect that the decline in fish stocks is caused by many years of overfishing.
So few fish again, and most of them are small. All we can do is dry them. There are too few big ones. This isn't enough for a meal. To make a decent meal, we'll need to add a lot of extra vegetables.
It's certainly not worth trying to sell his modest catch, but at least he and his family won't go hungry tonight. His village is located around 200 meters from the sea, where it's better protected against cyclones and storms. There are a few shops that serve their daily needs. His wife is making a fish curry with lots of chilies, tomatoes, and rice. Until a year and a half ago, U Tingui earned around 500 euros per month. Now, that has fallen to just 60 euros on average.
What can I do if we only have these few fish? We'll just have to make do.
In order to survive, U Tingui constantly has to borrow money at high interest rates. The repayments are growing every month. It's a vicious cycle. He's considering changing his line of work. Maybe starting something new. For several decades during the military dictatorship, there were hardly any international scientific investigations in Myanmar. This changed when democracy was established. The marine biologist Dr. Cherry Ah and her students have come from the University of Patain in the western part of the country. In cooperation with an American team from the University of Washington, they plan to study the delta more closely.
I'm very interested in river deltas. Right now, I'm studying the geology of the Irrawaddy Delta and the neighboring region. Deltas are very interesting to us scientists because they are composed of a mixture of fresh water and salt water.
The researchers take sediment and water samples.
There's too much mud in there. Every month, we analyze the water quality and the deposits caused by sediment. Using this device, we are able to take water samples from different depths.
Using a refractometer like the ones used by winemakers, they measure the salinity of the water.
15. 15. 15. 5,000. Service water. 15. 5,000.
Okay, we've got the water samples. Let's take a mud sample now. Have you reached the bottom? Oh yes, we've got a big load.
The mud samples are kept for later analysis in a lab. The scientific study with the Americans will go on for another 3 years. Sunset in the Delta is always a magnificent spectacle. Several black birds circle over the mangrove forests in the nature reserve. Their diet consists mainly of fish, and they prefer the moist areas close to the riverbanks. This is why they are also known as water kites. With a wingspan of up to 1.5 meters, these large birds make use of the evening breeze. They then rest on sandbanks in the middle of the Irrawaddy River. The rangers estimate that the colony consists of 1,000 individuals. The forest ranger La So Win is still on patrol with a colleague. They are visiting a shrimp fisherman. He told them that over the last few months, he's been raising a female brahmini, a large bird of prey.
How young was it when you found it?
Very young. She could hardly stand up.
A chick. How old is she now?
12 months.
You mustn't put her in a cage, though. She needs freedom.
Yeah, I know. She doesn't come much now anyway.
How often?
Only every 2 or 3 days.
What do you give her to eat?
She eats fish. She really likes fish. But sometimes I give her shrimp. I give her shrimp too. Tonight, Forest Ranger Lao So Win and his colleagues set out on a nocturnal mission in the Myanmar Chun Nature Reserve. They are joined by Zhao Lun, the marine biologist from Flora and Fauna International. They want to count the saltwater crocodiles, in particular, the young ones. During the day, they remain hidden because they are easy prey for other animals. But at night, they are easy to find with a flashlight because their eyes reflect the light. The light bewilders them, and they freeze. They count the population and check to see if their numbers have remained stable or have changed.
Look, there's one in the light beam.
The baby crocodiles mainly eat insects and small amphibians, though they have many enemies as well, including birds of prey, fish, and larger crocodiles.
Just 1 or 2% of them survive the first 3 or 4 months of life. We check their population levels regularly. The figures tell us if their living conditions are optimal or if they have too many predators.
When the conditions deteriorate for saltwater crocodiles in the nature reserve, they venture outside it. The shortage of food drives them into the surrounding villages, where they can pose a danger to the inhabitants.
At the end of our survey, we'll know if the population has increased or decreased. If it has remained stable, it means they're happy in their habitat, and there's enough to eat.
At the end of the night, it becomes clear that the population of saltwater crocodiles has actually risen slightly. The animals are obviously doing well. The nature reserve is home to a diverse range of amphibians, insects, and birds. On the outskirts, there are also larger mammals, such as water buffalo, which belong to the farmers. Last time out, the fisherman U Ting Nui had more luck with his catch. A few larger fish found their way into his net. He and his wife want to sell them in the town of Katongani in the south of the delta. It's a 1.5-hour journey by boat. The port is the last major town before the Irrawaddy flows into the sea. In the past, U Ting Nui would only travel here if his icebox was full. Nowadays, he makes the long journey even for a relatively modest catch because he can get a better price than in the local villages where everybody lives from fishing. The fish trader shops are located on the outskirts of the city. Everything that the traders in Katongani buy is intended for resale in Rangoon, the former capital of Myanmar. Most of the buyers are restaurants, which sell huge amounts of fish, mangrove shrimps, and various types of prawn to their customers. Now it's U Ting Nui's turn. A few bass, ribbonfish, and croakers are all he has to offer. Since the supply of fish is quite low at the moment, U Ting Nui gets a slightly better price. It's better than nothing.
I earned 22,000 kayak. It's not very much, but at least it's enough to buy some groceries for the family.
Katongani is famous for its many colorful, bustling shops and its wide range of goods. Using some of the money U Ting Nui earned with his catch, equivalent to about €13, his wife wants to buy fresh vegetables that aren't available in their village. Although the items on sale are very tempting, they can't afford any more. They have to save money. They're worried about the future. The financial burden of their loan has become so immense that U Ting Nui has no choice but to give up his profession, at least until the fish stocks have a chance to recover.
It's becoming more and more difficult for me to catch any fish in the river at all. It's really terrible for us. If this year turns out as bad as last year, I'll have to give up fishing completely. I'll try my hand at trading, sell my fishing nets and start a new business. I'll buy clothes in Rangoon and sell them in Bogale or the surrounding villages. That's my plan.
The dream of a better life keeps them going. Hopefully, one without worries and free of debt. The marine biologist Dr. Cherry Ah and her students are also researching the extremely shy Irrawaddy dolphin, which is critically endangered. It belongs to the whale family and lives in rivers. in the brackish waters of the Delta and in shallow coastal waters across Southeast Asia. The rangers usually know better than anyone where the dolphins might be found.
Have you seen any dolphins in this area?
Yes, I've seen some over the last few days.
How many?
4 or 5.
Where were they?
In Thorpine Creek.
Okay, then we'll take a look around the other side.
It's estimated that 20 Irrawaddy dolphins still live in the Delta. Over the centuries, they've adapted to conditions in the river. 2 decades ago, it was possible to see hundreds of them. Now, they are at risk of extinction, according to the Worldwide Fund for Nature.
When there are a lot of jellyfish in the water, we see hardly any dolphins. We want to find out why the dolphins stay away at those times. At the moment, we can't draw any conclusions from the data we have. We suspect that the dolphins avoid the jellyfish because of their poison. This species of dolphin behaves differently from other species on the open sea, but we are only just beginning to learn about their behavior and need to study them more.
It's easy to distinguish Irrawaddy dolphins from other dolphins. They lack the typical dolphin snout and have a bulbous head similar to a beluga whale. They surface about once a minute to get air.
Can I help you?
Yes. Come over here.
The rangers are a vital source of information for Cherry Ah. They know the Delta better than most because they are constantly on patrol.
Do you think there are more dolphins now?
I haven't seen many recently. There's a shortage of small fish, which are their main food source.
What's it like in the other waterways around here?
I estimate that there are at least 5 or 6 pods in the entire delta.
Over on this side, there's one consisting of about 4 or 5 dolphins.
Yes, some were spotted here at about 9 this morning. I heard it from the ranger station.
Thank you, that's all for now.
You're welcome. Just contact us if you need anything. I'm glad to see that you're doing research here.
Thanks, we certainly will.
The biggest danger to the Irrawaddy dolphins is fishing. Cherry Ah learns that they frequently die after getting caught in fishing nets. Yet she knows it will be almost impossible to eradicate this danger. The fishermen are very poor and depend on fishing to earn a living. Nature conservation is not a priority to them. In the estuary zone of the Delta, the Irrawaddy flows into the Bay of Bengal, where there are 2 islands. The larger of the 2, Kadongale, is called Turtle Island by the locals. The sea turtles used to lay their eggs on the long sandy beaches here, but in recent years, very few have been returning. Many of them get caught in fishing nets and suffer a painful death by suffocation, unable to reach the surface to breathe. The rangers observed only 7 female sea turtles here in their most recent count. However, another species is enjoying a boom. A colony of hundreds of ghost crabs populates the shore, feeding on carrion and insects. When in danger, they disperse into their burrows, which reach all the way to the groundwater. In the early light of morning, a few sea turtles have hatched. Instinctively, they crawl in the direction of the sea, but it's a race against time. They are easy prey for birds. And once they reach the water, they're not safe either. Only about 1 in 1,000 baby turtles will survive until maturity. Gradually, people in Myanmar are becoming more aware of the unique value of the Irrawaddy Delta. More and more people are giving their support to protect and preserve this fascinating ecosystem and its diverse wildlife.